Last time you were here was the Wild and Lonely album. Do we need a brief history of what's happened to Billy MacKenzie since then?
So from Wild and Lonely, I went across to America because they wanted me across there, and there was a lot of interest in Wild and Lonely. So I took over my friend from Dundee, and I needed the mother tongue there, you know. I couldn't sort of do it on my own, and with my own family, there was too many to take across, you know. I'm not a... what's that like?
Womack and Womack tend to take
exactly.
Absolutely everybody into the studio.
Exactly, although I would have liked to have done that, but I would have had to spend more time getting people out of trouble. But so we went over there, and the album that spawned a top 20 dance hit with Fire to Ice, and we went around from New York. We went on a basic tour of radio stations and such. So, but I was really, really surprised at the support and, you know, real live American fans, which, you know, I can get a bit embarrassed about these situations. And so, but in every town we went, we flew. It was fun as well because it was very glamorous. We had a big stretch limo with the television in the back and the brandy glasses and the sort of the walnut panelling and such, and that was really fun. And we went from New York, we flew to Washington, Miami, all over, and we met tons of great people. And at that time as well, clubbing in America was good because it went through a very rock sterile period, I would say, in the 80s. In fact, the 80s to me was totally sterile for music as well. I think it was the worst decade. Although I had most of my success there for music, I think it was the worst decade ever for music, from Debussy. And so I was very, very pleasantly surprised, and you know, they would set up parties for us in New York, and we had surprise things like Naomi Campbell would come to our party, and you know, I think we ended up in Hollywood. There was a party, and it was Dolph Lundgren, his club, and he hosted the party for us. So there was a lot of people out there, and
so it was a lot of hard work, really.
No, I wasn't hard work. I wasn't hard work whatsoever, and it was real. It was fun. But I was meant to come home. Although I'll tell you, the worst thing about it was when I hit Los Angeles, and I was going to actually stay with the Mail brothers, you know, Sparks.
Ron and Russell.
Yeah, who are friends of mine. And but I was there for one day, and it was just such an overwhelming feeling that the lid was going to blow on that city. You know, that was like a year previous to the riots. And it was like a nightmare, you know, a Blade Runner. And the tension there was just intense. And I just thought, I'm out of here. I just hated it. I hated what I saw in the streets, the architecture, because I had lived there in the 70s. I'd went across there and lived there, and that was fun. But when you're 17, you ignore these things because you're all wrapped up in your own fun. But what I saw there was, you know, it was on Sunset Boulevard, and it was just really tacky. And, you know, a lot of people were out on the street, and the American dream to me was the American nightmare. I just found it disgusting. So I was meant to stay there for 2 weeks and party, and I went, ta-ta. And so, and I was so fed up with flying that I just got the bus all the way back because I wanted to see if I'd bottle after all these first-class flights, and of course the stretch limo. And although I did say to the record company, could we keep the stretch limo and go back across back to New York? They said, no, Billy, I don't think so. So my friend and I were just decided that we'd get the Greyhound from Los Angeles all the way back to New York and just treat it like the 32 going to Findowry Street or something, you know. So we had all these, like, I just kept buying all these clothes, and I ended up with it was like a settee suite in the back of the bus. But we had a great laugh, and then we went back to New York, and then I decided to stay there, and I was going to stay there, and then Scotland had the pull on me again, and it's cruel. It's terrible, but I always end up back in Scotland because it's vampiric and it's in my blood. And you know, I had a beautiful apartment over there in New York, and I could have had fun in that. And then, but just the call of the wild back home, and you know, I was back there. But saying that, I met lots of great musicians and such, and it was a real high.
Going back to Outernational,
Yeah.
you've come up with some new expressions like Outernational, Groovature, Opal Crush. I mean, what is the Richter groove?
Well, I didn't know. It was Pidgin German, really. I didn't know.
I see.
But certain words just I use for euphonics, to actually marry textures together that suit the it's like babble, but it suits the
like the
the
jazz,
track.
scat
Exactly.
stuff.
So it's called anyway. That's the euphonics of it. But with Ricky Groove, I found out that Moritz, who's my friend over in Berlin, he says, "Well, that is the judgment groove." So there's a certain moral thread that runs through all the tracks, So there you go.
So we'll put the black cap on then and listen to this. This feels like the Richter groove. From Billy McKenzie's album Outernational, that's Feels Like the Richter Groove. Billy, the Stevie Wonder song, Pastime Paradise. What's the story behind the quote that goes with that? Behold the glories of the Lamb amidst thy Father's throne, prepare new honours for his name and songs unknown.
It's quite strange, actually. I'm not getting cosmic about it, but there was a particularly frustrating period for me. And I think it was just after... It was just when I signed the contract or left Warner Brothers, and there was just one day that I said to my cousin, well, let's go for a drive in the countryside, because once I get in the countryside I could forget about most things and just sort of, it dissolves a lot of the tensions for me. So we went to this little antique shop, and I think it was Rate, and I looked upon the wall, and there was this, my eyes just went to this. It's called a planter. It's an embroidered picture from the sort of 18th century.
The kind of thing we might look at and say, oh, it's a kind of home sweet home thing.
That's right, exactly, a home sweet home thing. You've got the picture there. And it was really unusual, and I looked at it, and it had most of the names of the members of my family embroidered on this house. And the house that was embroidered on the print was very much the front elevation of our own home, and also there was a little dog in the garden, there was birds and that, and it had certain members of my family, like there was head was JM, which was that's my dad's called Jim, and there was sisters' names and brothers, and it was so strange because, as I say, it was at a kind of frustrating edge, and sometimes it doesn't matter who it is or how successful. You always think, whether it be Annie Lennox or George Michael, I've talked to them all. A lot of them have wanted to quit music because it also, freedom is sometimes sweeter, and sometimes the simple life is, because there's always a price to pay. And but it gave me encouragement, and then when I looked at the the verse above, it was very much it just supported that, through it you always have to try and be as honest as possible and do it for musical reasons, and that verse was just such a beautiful thing to find.